The final flash of a camera bulb, the scratch of a pen signing an autograph, the mundane exchange of a pleasantry, these were the last moments of peace before the world lost one of its most powerful voices. On a cold December night in 1980, outside the Gothic grandeur of the Dakota apartment building in New York City, a man who had preached peace and love was met with an act of senseless, brutal violence. The shot that rang out at 10:50 p.m. did more than just end a life. It shattered the innocence of a generation and silenced the man who dared to imagine a world without possessions, without borders, and without war. Remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of the Calendar of Crime. Also, we're coming soon to Substack. The day of December 8, 1980, began like any other for John Lennon and Yoko Ono. They were focused on their music, specifically the final mixing of Yoko's song, Walking on Thin Ice. They had recently returned to the public eye after a 5-year hiatus dedicated to raising their son, Sean. The new album, Double Fantasy, was a celebration of their domestic bliss and creative reunion, a testament to a life finally finding harmony. That afternoon, a photographer from Rolling Stone magazine, Annie Leibovitz, arrived for a session that would produce one of the most iconic and controversial images in rock history. As the day progressed, John and Yoko left the Dakota for a recording session at the record plant studio. It was around 5 p.m. when their limousine pulled up to the curb. Waiting outside, as he had been for hours, was Mark David Chapman, a 25-year-old security guard from Hawaii. Chapman was an obsessive fan, but his admiration had curdled into a deep, irrational resentment. He carried a copy of Double Fantasy and a paperback copy of J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. In a moment captured by a fan photographer, Paul Gorish, Lennon signed the album for Chapman. "Is this all you want?" Lennon reportedly asked. Chapman, in a chillingly calm response, nodded. Lennon and Ono then departed for the studio. Chapman remained, lurking in the shadows, his internal conflict, the struggle between his good side and his bad side, now resolved in favor of the latter. He had the autograph, but the act of signing had only momentarily delayed his dark purpose. The evening at the studio was productive. John and Yoko were energized, discussing future projects and the positive reception of their new work. They left the studio around 10:30 p.m., deciding to skip dinner and head straight home. They could have driven the car into the secure courtyard of the Dakota, but for some reason they chose to exit on the street. As they walked toward the archway entrance, Chapman stepped out from the shadows. He called out, "Mr. Lennon?" John turned, perhaps recognizing the man from earlier. Chapman then dropped into a combat stance and fired 5 hollow-point bullets from a .38 caliber Charter Arms revolver. 4 of the bullets struck Lennon in the back and shoulder, tearing through his aorta and left lung. John stumbled forward, crying out, "I'm shot!" He staggered up 5 steps into the reception area before collapsing. Yoko Ono screamed for help. The doorman, Jose Perdomo, immediately disarmed Chapman, kicking the gun away. Chapman made no attempt to flee. Instead, he calmly removed his coat, sat down on the curb, and began reading The Catcher in the Rye. When a police officer arrived and asked, "Do you know what you've done?" Chapman replied, "Yes, I just shot John Lennon." Police officers arrived quickly and, recognizing the severity of the wounds, rushed Lennon into a patrol car, speeding to Roosevelt Hospital. Despite the efforts of the emergency room staff, the damage was catastrophic. John Lennon was pronounced dead at 11:07 p.m. The news spread like wildfire, first through the hospital staff, then to the police, and finally, to the world. Howard Cosell announced the news live on Monday Night Football, a surreal moment that brought the tragedy into millions of American homes. The world mourned the loss of a musical genius and a cultural icon. The vigil outside the Dakota became a spontaneous global outpouring of grief. Chapman, the self-proclaimed nobody who sought to steal Lennon's fame, achieved his perverse goal, but at the cost of his own freedom and the peace of mind of millions. His motive, a twisted mix of religious delusion, resentment over Lennon's wealth and statements, and a desire for notoriety, remains a chilling study in celebrity obsession.